Welcome back to the 8th concession. My name is Natalie. It's September, and I don't know about you, but at this time of year I get almost a panicked feeling. Here in Southern Ontario, Zone 5B, once the fall hits, winter can come early, it can come late. We can have a long, mild, warm fall, or we can have a short, wet, cold fall. And so when I get to September, all of a sudden I think, oh, all the things I didn't get done this summer. I mean, life happens. We've had some family things going on, nice things and, difficult things. And I never seem to get as much done as I'd like, especially with the garden this year. It got a little out of control because I was away for a lot of July, and now it's September and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the garden is still full. I haven't really cleaned out a lot. I haven't done all my harvesting or preserving, and that really panics me a little bit. Do you feel that panic too this time of year? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just here in Ontario, Zone 5B, where we don't have a lot of growing days left. And so I need to get down in the garden. I haven't even done my tomatoes yet this year. The tomatoes is something we have to talk about because those who've been following know that I've struggled with my tomatoes this year with a bad case of blight. It wasn't as bad as last year, but it was still bad enough, and I tried a new variety of tomato that was sorely disappointing and will not be growing again. 0 stars. And that is the silver fir tomatoes. But let's go down into the garden. I've got a harvest basket with me. I want to pick the rest of the Cup of Moldova plum tomatoes that I have ripening so that I can at least do some frozen tomatoes. I don't know whether I'll can them this year or just do frozen. And see what else I can clean out of that garden now. I've harvested some seeds, but I mean, that garden is still full and it's September. I'm panicking. Time to get some stuff done down there. I haven't even harvested the potatoes. Ugh. Let's see what we can find. The jungle that is my garden. The tomatoes. You can look up on the trellis there. The Matt's wild cherry tomatoes. Well, it was the right thing to put them by the trellis. They have just taken over. Actually, they've grown. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure you can see this. The plant was planted here on the end of the trellis. All this greenery here. This is not the silver fir tomatoes, which have just died and given up the ghost, but all of this here, the Matt's wild cherry tomato has gone over the tops of 1, 2, 3 different tomato cages all the way to here. But look at these lovely cherry tomatoes. Oh my goodness. And those up there, those are all tomatoes. Man, those really are wild, but they do have, oh, you can see more in here. Just look how lovely that fruit is. Now, I was surprised and disappointed that the Matt's wild cherry tomato did suffer some blight early in the year. Let me go around to the other side of the trellis where they were planted. Oh, look, they're all on the ground now too. They've escaped. So you can see here in the bottom, the Matt's wild cherry tomato did suffer some blight. Down in the bottom, it's pretty bare. But I think that the trick of these is they grow so fast and so prolific that the blight cannot keep up to the growth. They are all the way up to the top of this trellis. Now, I have already harvested a whole basket full of cherry tomatoes, but you can see there's lots left. But yes, it has spilled out onto the ground. It's heading off down the garden bed. And on this side, again, I had put one over here and it has just gone all the way up. Oh, look what I see. A loofah. And then the birdhouse gourds. Well, I didn't mean for this to be a garden tour today, but here are the Cup of Moldova plum tomatoes. I'm going to see how many more are ripe. My poor zucchini is giving up the ghost, but I think there's zucchini back there I have to harvest as well. Let's see what we get. Oh, and as I come around the corner here, these are the tidy treat. Now, they were more affected by the blight than I thought. Now, you can see they're rallying. There's still some green growth there, but we have had a ton of tomatoes off of them, and there's a ton more to get, and they were delicious. So, hey, they survived. Now these are the mountain, well, they're supposed to be Mountain Magic sort of cocktail tomatoes, but as I mentioned before, I can see that they have cross-pollinated, I think with the Cup of Moldova. They still taste good, and I'm still picking them and using them, but they're not exactly the Mountain Magic size or shape. But they are lovely tomatoes. Back here somewhere in this jungle are my potato bags. These poor things were completely neglected, and I know I've lost a bunch of potatoes to sun scald because I didn't add dirt as they started to grow, which I planned to do. I just didn't get to it. But let's see if we get anything out of them, if we can even find them. Little bit of green on there, but not too much. This one's too green. Oh, we've got some more underneath though. This one is particularly bad for sun scald. You can see I've lost all these potatoes here. What a shame. Oh well. I'm going to set these aside. Some of them, when there's only like a corner, I can cut that up. Well, no, actually I think that one goes too far in. Rats. So I did lose this many to sun scald, which is a real shame, but it's entirely my fault for not getting the soil on top. But look at this. I have this whole basket of beautiful potatoes and some more here in a bucket because I ran out of room. That is amazing. When you consider I planted, some of them were halves. I think there were 10 potatoes in all, something like that. There were 10 bags, and I cut most of them in half. So there was 10 or 12 potatoes from the store. These were store-bought potatoes that had sprouted. So I knew they didn't have an inhibitor, like a growth inhibitor, because they'd already sprouted in the bag. And they probably would have gone to waste because they were too soft to eat. And instead, out of those 10 or 12 potatoes, I'd say I got 15 pounds. I think that's well worth it. Now, the soil in these 10 grow bags, I'm going to use to fill up my other garden beds when everything else is out. So I'll probably just move them to the side for now, and then when the rest of the gardens are empty, I'll just dump that soil to help build them up again. You know, nature never fails to amaze me. Those potatoes were forgotten, neglected. I think other than when I first planted them and I gave them a bit of water because we were in a dry spell, I didn't even remember to water them now. We did have quite a bit of rain this summer, but we did also have some heat waves, and honestly, they were battling these weeds, these reeds were growing all up and over them. Now, I did notice that the bags that were farther back into the weeds where they got less sun had smaller and fewer potatoes. So I have to remember, maybe next year when I get the rest of my garden beds in and this area stays clear here in the middle without this pressure from the weeds, some of them won't be in the shade, but you know, I'm really pleased with that. Some delicious, fresh, new potatoes. Oh, nothing tastes better. And look at this little beauty. This is a watermelon. But just look at the tenacity of that plant. After the onions were pulled and, you know, there's still some warmish weather. You can see it's still blooming at the end here. Well, we're going to let that little watermelon grow and eat it no matter what size it is. And over here, the peppers are finally taking off. These are yellow bell peppers. You can see there's a bunch of them. If we peek inside, we can see some Hungarian hot wax peppers. Oh, it's just like a little jungle in here. Oh. There's some green bell peppers. There's some royal blacks. There's some jalapenos. There's my cabbage that has regrown. I need to really pull that. Now this zinnia plant has fallen over a bit, but these are the midget melons. They've struggled to take off. It is September, but depending on what kind of fall we get, I mean, there's a lot of blooms on them. Maybe we'll get a melon. Wouldn't that be great? I don't think there's one hiding under there. You just never know. Parts of the garden look really sad this time of year, don't they? The pumpkins have decided they're done. I do know we have 3 for sure. 2 orange. You can sort of see one. Where is it hiding? One big one there. You can see through there, there's some orange peeking through. And one big white one over here. But the pumpkins did jump over the edge over in this little aisle here. There's a chain link fence there, or I shouldn't say chain link, chicken wire fence right here. So it's hard to get in between there. It's quite narrow. But when I go to pull them out, maybe there's another one in there. And I think my beans are ready to come out. It's time to put this garden to bed. But today, I've got to get those tomatoes processed. Well, neglected as it was, this garden is still giving. It is truly amazing. So I'm going to get the tomatoes done today. I'm not going to try and tackle the pumpkins and beans back there. The tomatoes need to be processed. The potatoes need to be put on newspaper in our garage in a dark area. That's how I cure potatoes to keep them. and then they'll go in my cold cellar, so they need to dry and cure for a bit. The peppers are still coming. There are more tomatoes to come, the pumpkins, the beans. It's truly amazing, especially for a garden that wasn't unloved, but it was neglected this year. I'm just always so astounded. Plants want to grow, and I am so grateful for the produce my garden has given me even so far this year. Hope your garden is bringing you delight too. Bye for now.